Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Gina Davis, and I am the Education Program Specialist with Maryland Department of Labor, predominantly responsible for professional development and coordinating this wonderful virtual training institute. Today, we have Tonya Nagle. She's going to be doing Your Class Can Use a Podcast. So if that's what you were here to see, you are in the right place. Before we get started here, I'm going to launch a quick poll so that we can see who's present here and what your role is within your program. If you can go ahead and select one option on your screen for me. Okay, great. So it looks like from what you can see here, we have actually almost pretty evenly dispersed here, instructional specialists, ABE instructors, ESL instructors, and a program administrator or two. So that is wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us. Just as a quick FYI, we might post things in the chat section. Oh, I'm sorry, your poll wouldn't work, but the way that you respond to us is utilizing the questions panel. Both myself and Tonya will be able to see the responses that we have here. But without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Tonya, and I hope everyone enjoys.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Tonya Nagle, and this is Your Class Can Use a Podcast. I taught in the adult basic education, GED, adult high school, in addition to teaching at universities and colleges across the nation in seated and online and hybrid platforms. And I only learned about podcasts this past year, so they were not beneficial to me during this time because I didn't know they existed. And when I saw this opportunity, I was like, if I had this podcast back when I was teaching seated classes, this would have been an amazing resource and tool. So that's the reason this course came about. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the WIFM. That's what's in it for me. I'm a Marine Corps veteran, so I like acronyms. And going to go over the basics. We're going to talk a little bit about brainstorming in case you decide that you want to use this. And then we're going to talk about what resources are available to you. So starting out, what's in it for me? Well, you can multiply yourself, and not in a real way, but in a real way. Think about if you have courses where you've got students on different levels and you need to spend time with each of them and they're in these different groups. And I had that a lot in my English language learning classes. I had that a lot in my basic skills classes. And if I had the podcast back then, I could have recorded some sections, put some labels on them, and then part of the class would have been listening to whatever assigned section they were supposed to be listening to, and then the other part could have been working on something different, and then I could have physically been with that, that third group, or with that second group, or with that fourth group, depending on how many levels you have broken down in there. And thinking about being able to do that, to just be able to multiply myself within the classroom and then to be able to give them individual time without feeling like I was taking away from the other students, I just thought that would be an amazing resource. And so I definitely wanted to bring that up. Additionally, it's not just for basic education. If I could have recorded what homework was due over and over again, as many times as I would tell my students, these are the page numbers, this is the assignment. If I could have recorded that and then broadcast it so that my students who either didn't make it to class, or B, the ones that were in class and maybe didn't take such great notes, could have had that to listen back to, that would have been, again, an amazing resource. Additionally, because we have administrators in here, being able to put out information like registration, time and location for what's going on. There's several colleges and universities that have podcasts that are program specific where they just broadcast news out about those programs, or admissions or special things that they're doing within the context of those programs and courses. So it's endless what you can do and how resourceful it can be for you. And you can upload episodes, you can remove them at certain times. It's super easy and accessible, and they don't have to go to a website. A lot of this stuff can be downloaded to your phone. And I think I've got all of that. And then, the stopgap for breaks. That's a really important feature, especially for English language learning and adult basic education and GED students. If there was a way for you to give them resources that they can continue working on between the holiday breaks or the week or two in between semesters, it could be a tool that they could use at their leisure, and maybe keep up with work so you're not having to start over or go back as far as you were. And anyone that was registering, someone could refer them to that and they could be working on something. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to be talking about is equipment, the fact that they are episodic and topic-based. Starting with equipment, this headset and mic that I use here, if I'm using the podcast online, this is it. I got this from Amazon. It was like 40 bucks. Generally, these are my earbuds that go into my phone. I use my earbuds and phone for a lot of my recordings, if I'm doing them live or if I'm just doing them myself. I'm not talking to someone else. If you did a mic combo, I would recommend getting the earphones also, just because it helps to kind of cancel out the outside noise. Podcasts are episodic, and if you only host it on the podcast platform that you choose, it's a little bit easier. But if you want it to be able to be reached through iTunes or Buzzsprout or any of the rest of those other online platforms where people listen, then you definitely want to make sure that you've got them labeled properly. I would say that is also important if you're using them for lessons and not just general, announcements, because they would be able to know like the dates that this applies to, the themes that it applies to, and then they'd be able to listen to it based on those categories. So making sure to clearly identify the topic, and here I gave the example, Dr. Nagle's notes for British literature, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 a.m. class. That way, if I'm teaching more than one class, when they go over to look at the episodes, they know exactly which class they're supposed to be listening to the notes for. Mr. Smith's homework reminders, fall 2021. Again, if you're not diligent about taking them down, it would be important to let them know exactly which session, especially if the sessions are about to overlap. And brainstorming. This is kind of the opportunity for you to think about what you may want to use a podcast for, be English language learning, homework, class notes and reminders, campus reminders and information, and so much more. These are the most common hosting services that are out there. I personally use Podbean, but there's Anchor, Buzzsprout, Podbean, Podiant, and Spreaker. You would need to kind of go through and decide which ones are right for you, but as you can see, they all go to Apple, Spotify, and Google. They all have analytics, and a couple of them you can actually monetize, meaning you could get sponsors and other things of that nature, which you probably wouldn't do for these purposes. I'm going to play just a little section of this. It just sort of shows you how easy it is to use Podbean, which is the reason that I personally chose Podbean.
So Tonya, I don't know that we're able to hear the sound that comes through your computer.
Oh, okay.
So if you
Well,
can just give
then
a
watch
summation.
that later. Yes, okay. So essentially what this does is it shows you, oh my goodness, why does it want to, it wants to show itself. So basically with the Podbean app, and I'll hold that up there. Basically with the Podbean app on your phone, it allows you to hit record and select the little red button down here, and then you would speak into your headset and record your episode and then upload it. That is the #1 reason why I picked Podbean, is because I could do all of that podcasting right here from my phone. And
just for ease of use, I put the link to the YouTube video that you were just trying to show into the chat box so people can click that and save that for later.
okay. And it's a quick video. I mean, it's only like 2 minutes, but it explains really just how easy it is to use that platform. I have friends who use the other platforms and absolutely love them. I chose Podbean because it was the most portable option for me. With that said, the #1 thing is to know, I know that podcasting is not for everyone. And as a teacher, you've got concepts and other information that you're constantly giving out. As administrators, you probably got worries about the HIPAA policy and all those other things. I'm not saying that everyone needs to create a podcast for their course, but I am saying there's probably a podcast out there, if you didn't want to create one for your course, that could be used for your materials. You could see, like if you're teaching English language learning, see what other English language podcasts are out there, pick those episodes and assign them to your class. Most students have cell phones. A lot of students are familiar with downloading apps, and if you have one student who has a cell phone with an app downloaded, then you have the ability for them to listen to a podcast. So check it out and see if someone has what you already want built, if you don't want to create one yourself, and then check it out and see if it's something that you want to do. It's not super difficult. It's a lot of fun, and your students will benefit from it. Any questions?
Thank you so much, Tonya. This has been wonderful. I think that the opportunities to utilize this could be pretty plentiful. So, you know, if we're not able to see our students in the classroom during a given time, or somebody was absent, you could still record a lesson or video record a lesson in some capacity and share it. So thank you so much. I think that that's a wonderful resource. So I'm going to go ahead now and post a feedback survey in the chat for everyone. If people can take a moment to complete the survey, they are truly anonymous. So, you know, be as honest as you would like. We intend to do this institute at least twice a year. So any ability we have to grow and learn, we really appreciate that. But thank you so much, Tonya. I'm going to steal the screen back so that you don't have to worry about that. You're welcome to turn off your webcam, and I hope everyone has a wonderful day.
Thank you.